Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every morning. And this chus of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. Should be a refuah shleima for Yechiel Nasim and Sarah, Aaron David Levi ben Menucha Lester, Avram Rafal and Sarah, Ashran Shal Levi ben Mary Madel, and Sarah Basnuni. Okay, we're on Daf Chaf, and it's maybe about 18 lines from the top. Tanu Rabbanan. Daf Chaf Amud Aleph 20a. It says Kiyam Kfiyas Amita Shleishi Yamim. That's where we're holding, right? Kiyam Kfiyas Amita Shleishi Yamim Kaidim Regel. In Tzarech Lekfayis Achar Regel Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. We learned in the Mishnah already that if someone practices Avelos before the holiday, then when the holiday comes in, the holiday breaks the Avelos, and that's the end of it. So here, the choice of Avelos, of the practices of Avelos, it chose for this brisa was Kfiyas Amita, the turning over of the bed. They would sleep closer to the floor, Dr. Stein explained. So then that's good. Then the regal comes in, the holiday comes in, and he doesn't have to keep the Avelos afterwards. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. That's the words of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer is Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenes, the student of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Chachamim Maimrim, afilu yoim echad v'afilu sha'achas. It doesn't need to be 3 days, even 1 hour. That's what we're more familiar with. That they do, they sit for an hour. Amar Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon says, Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon is Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai's son. Hein divrei Beis Shammai, hein divrei Beis Hillel. The machlekes Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim is exactly a machlekes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Who holds what? Well, Rabbi Eliezer, as you know, was accused, possibly more than that, of being Beis Shammai. Gemara calls him Shamuti. Yeah. So what happened over here? So Beis Shammai yomim shleishi yamim, Beis Hillel rafilu yom echad. You see, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was a student of Hillel and Shammai. His students, Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer, sort of ended up on different sides of this. Rabbi Eliezer is considered a follower of Shammai, and Rabbi Yeshua was Beis Hillel. Yeah, at least that's what it seems. Okay. So the 3 days versus 1 day, we're on Daf Chaf. Yeah, Daf Chaf Amud Aleph. 3 day versus 1 day is actually a machlekes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rab Chia bar Abba, Amar Rab Yochanan. Rav Huna says in the name of Rab Chia bar Abba, in the name of Rab Yochanan. That's interesting because unless it's a different Rav Huna, if it's the famous Rav Huna that's a student of Rav, I didn't know that he was associated at all with Rabbi Yochanan's yeshiva. He's quoting a student of Rabbi Yochanan. The dates are a little off also. There could be more. If there's more than one Rav Huna, then this would fit. If Amrila, gets even worse. Amar, what's this Aleph? Amar le Rabbi Yochanan le Rab Chia bar Abba, v'Rab Chia bar Abba le Rav Huna. That's how it's supposed to go. Afilu yom echad, afilu sha'achas. Okay, so he's passing like Beis Hillel, he's passing like the Chachamim, that 1 hour of Avelos before a holiday is enough for the holiday to break the Avelos. Rava Amar halacha ketana didan damar shleisha. Rava says no. The halacha is like our Tana that says 3 days. I don't understand what the Rashbam is saying. He says Tana de Brisa. I don't know. Yeah. He has a whole Torah in there. Bitzal Ranchberg. Okay, Ravina ikla l'sura de pras. Ravina went to Surah of Pras. I guess there's 2 surahs. Pras is by the Euphrates. This surah was a surah that was by that's the name of a city. Amalei Rav Chaviva Ravina Hilchas Amai. Rav Chaviva tells to him, who's the halacha like? Amalei afilu yom echad v'afilu sha'achas. Okay. What does that have to do with the location? Maybe because that's where Rav Chaviva lived. Yosef Rav Chia bar Abba v'Rabami v'Rab Yitzchak Nafcha Akila v'Rab Yitzchak ben Elazar. So Rav Chia bar Abba that we mentioned before, he's a great student of Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabami, and Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha are at the entranceway of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar. Nafak Milsa Benayo, they start discussing. And one of the things that comes out is Minayin Lavelis Shiva. Sounds like a very fundamental question. How do you know that Avelis is 7 days? Yesterday we asked, how do you know that there's 30 days that you can't cut the hair that we learned from Nazar? Now we ask even more basic question. How do you know that Avelis is 7 days? They quote a pasuk. It says by the prophet that he's going to turn their holidays into mourning. Well, Machag Shiva, just like a regular holiday is 7 days. Avelis Shiva says, well, way to get that it's a regular holiday. Maybe it's talking about Shavuos. That's also a holiday. And if that Shavuos gets turned into a day of mourning, that would just be 1 day. It says, you're right. But that we use for something else, something that Rish Lakish taught. Rish Lakish says the name of Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. It's a grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. If someone hears about a relative that passed away, and he hears about it like much later, called Shmor Rechaika. Rechaika means distant or delayed or something. He hears about it later. He doesn't read the news. So how does he know that the avelis of such a type of scenario where he didn't know about it until, I don't know, a few months later or something? So then that it's only 1 day. Because we have a holiday that's just 1 day, and that's Shavuos. And when does that apply? That Avelis is 1 day. That's by a Shmor Rechaika. Regularly, it's a regular holiday. Shmor Rechaika, if they hear about it a long time later, then it's 1 day. Taner Rabbanan, here we have the discussion about Shmor Rechaika. Learned in a Braisa, Shmor Kreiva Nehega Shivu Shleishim. If he hears about it right away, that someone passed away, so he has to keep 7 days of Avelis and then the Shleishim, the 30 days. Shmor Rechaika in Nehega Saliyah Mechad. But if he hears about it much later, so then it's just 1 day. What is the Kreiva and Rechaika? What is considered close? What is considered distant? Kreiva is B'teich Shleishim. Rechaika is Lachar Shleishim. Div Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says that the whole difference is 30 days. If it's within the 30 days, then it's a regular mourning of Avelis and Shiva, of Shiva and Shleishim. And if it's after 30 days, then it's the 1 day Avelis. Chacham say no, it's always Shiva Shleishim. Interesting. That's the majority view. Amar Rabba bar bar Chana Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabba bar bar Chana says the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabba bar bar Chana, student of Rabbi Yochanan, he's a relative of Rav. We'll see. He says Kol makom shat moitzi yachid mekel v'rab machmirim halach karabim. Doesn't really have to do with yachid mekel v'rab machmirim. It has to do with yachid v'rabim is halach karabim. Chutz mizu, except for this case. Shafa pisha Rabbi Akiva mekel v'chachamim machmirim halach Rabbi Akiva. Usually we have a rule that halacha is like Rabbi Akiva mechaverai, when he argues with one person. If he argues with more than one person, then the halacha is like the majority. That's a general rule. Over here, the halacha is like Rabbi Akiva. Even though Rabbi Akiva is lenient, because we had this before. Look on the side, this is quoted so many times. That Shmuel says that the halacha is, we take the lenient opinion by Avelis. That's the rule. By Avelis, you take the lenient opinion. So if there's a more lenient opinion, you follow that view. Shmuk Reva. It's all Avelis to Rabbanon. That's not so clear. I mean, the first day could be Daraisa. I think that's a discussion about that.
What was the question?
If Avelis is Daraisa, then why should we always accept the lenient opinion? Yeah, but let's say there's a question on the first day. Do you take the lenient opinion? Yeah. Okay. Rav Chanina Asyale Shmua da Avua mi Bechuzai. Rav Chanina is the first generation Amira in Eretz Yisrael. That's Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama. He's a student of Rebbe, teacher of Rabbi Yechanan. So he hears, doesn't make sense. Can't be this. It's a different Rav Chanina. Doesn't make sense. So he hear this Rav Chanina. This is a different Rav Chanina. He hears that his father passed away in Bechuzai. Asal Kamid Rav Chizda comes to Rav Chizda. Can't be Rav Chanina Bar Chama comes to Rav Chizda. So this Rav Chanina comes to Rav Chizda. Amalei Shmua Rechaike in Nehegas Aliyah Mechad. Rav Chizda tells him, okay, it's a Shmua Rechaike. It's one day Avelis. Rav Nassan Barami Asali Shmua de Eimei min Bechuzai. Rav Nassan Barami he hears that his mother passed away in Bechuzai. So Asal Kami de Rava comes to Rava. It's a generation later. And Amarle Hari Amr Shmua Rechaike in Nehegas Aliyah Mechad Bilvad. We said Shmua Rechaike. It's only one day. Okay, very nice. Eisvei. Problem is, we have a brisa that says, when do we say that a Shmua Rechaika is only one day? That's only if it's the 5 relatives. You see, there's 7 close relatives. Yeah, my teacher in 4th grade said the way you remember it is father, mother, sister, brother, son, daughter, wife. It was Rabbi Breslauer. Remember Rabbi Breslauer for months? Based tefillah, yeah, the show based tefillah. So the 5 of them are not including father, mother. So it's sister, brother, son, daughter, wife. Those 5 would have a Shmua Rechaika of one day. Aval alaviv alimai shivu shleishim. But for father and mother, the Avelis is a regular Avelis, even if it's heard after 30 days. So why were they paskening Rav Chizda and Rava? Why were they telling Rav Chanina and Rav Nassan Barami that it's only one day? It's a father and a mother. Amalei. So he responded. Must be Rava's responding. Yechidahi. We don't hold it up, Brisa. That's an individual opinion, and it's not accepted. It's Yechidah. We don't hold like it. Titania, we'll prove it to you. We have other brises like that. We have a brisa that says the following: Ma'isa meisaviv shel Reb Tzadok. Reb Tzadok's father dies. The Ginzak, in this place called Ginzak, and they only let him know after 3 years. Maybe he was fasting. They want to tell him right away. I don't know. Reb Tzadok is the one that fasted for 40 years. Bavashalas Elisha ben Avuya is a Zakenim Shima. You hear this? They asked Elisha ben Avuya and the Zakenim. V'amru, this is just getting us ready for Chagiga. Elisha ben Avuya is a big discussion in Chagiga. They asked the elders, V'amru nog shiva ushleishim. 3 years later, it's a whole full shiva. In Shleishim, when the son of Rabbi Achia passed away in Goyla, probably means in Bavel, so he also said Shiva Shleishim. Even though he didn't hear about it right away. Why are we quoting this? We're trying to tell you that there are other opinions out there that we don't follow. Okay. Now the Gemara challenges what just happened, because we said that Rav Achia sat Shiva and Shloshim for his son. Goes like this. Aini, how could that be? Aini, is it so? Or some people translate it. Is it not so? Or is it really so? Or V'harav barach v'derab Chia, dava barachta derab Chia. Rav was the brother, the son of Reb Chia's brother, and he was also the son of Reb Chia's sister. Why? Because Reb Chia's father, well, his name was Ravacha Mikafri, and he had a son, Evu. Evu had a son, Rav. But Ravacha Mikafra, the grandfather of Rav, his wife passed away. He married another woman that had already had a daughter. And together with that woman, he had a child, Chia. There's other there's other siblings of Evu. One is Chana, which is a man, Rabba Bar Chana. Okay. Then there's, which Chesed and Aleph. Then there's, I think there was a Marta and there was a Sheila, I think.
Is Chana from Hananel or something?
I don't know. It's with the Aleph. Right, I think. Maybe it's not. No, it's not. Over here, it's with a hey. I think today when they spell it with an Aleph. In the Gemara, it's printed with a hey. It's like Akiva. How do they spell Akiva? Akiva's with the Aleph. I know the first letter. The last letter. Last letter is an Aleph or a hey?
Yeah, usually an Aleph.
Usually it's with a Aleph, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Or Zarua wrote in his Akdama that Or Zarua Latzadik Ul Yishri Leif Simcha is Seifi Tevis Akiva, and it has a hey. Zarua is an ayin, Latzadik is a kuf, Yishrei Leiv Simcha with a hey. Okay, so Evu, who's the son of Ravacha Mikafri and a half brother of Chia, marries Rav Chia's half sister, who he's not related to.
Father married Leah. They had a kid named Evu. Leah died, and he married Rachel. Rachel had a previous daughter from somebody else. That daughter, she was a
Half sister of Chia. Huh?
stepsister. She was not biological.
She's not a half sister, stepsister. Very good. Okay, a stepsister of Chia marries. No, of course she's a half sister. It's the same mother.
She's the new mother.
Of Chia, she's the same mother.
Stepmother.
No, it can't be. Same mother with Reb Chia. No?
That's not what he says.
No, that's clear. It says, the Gemara says, Rav bar Achva de Reb Chia, Rav bar Achti de Reb Chia, right? Had to be. So, Kisalak lahasam. So when Rav went to Bavel, went from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, Amar Lei, so he says, Reb Chia tells to Rav, he has a guest arrived from Bavel. He says, Abba Kayam, is your father alive? There's two ways of learning this Gemara. One is he's asking if my father is alive. It's referring to Ravacha Mikafri. The other one is he's talking to Rav. He says, "Is your father alive?" He's talking to about his brother. Oh, it's my father.
Yeah.
So Amalei, Rav responds. He wants to say nicely. He says, "Ema kayemes." Why don't you ask about my mother? which was his sister. Amalei, he says, you're right. Ema kayamas. What about your mother? He says, Amalei, Abba kayam. He says, why don't you ask about my father? So he sees that he's not answering. At least that's one shot to be here. So Amalei l'shamei, so Reb Chia tells to his shamus, his servant, Chalitz li minalai, help me take off my shoes. And v'hailach achrei kela lebeis merchatz, and bring me new clothes. I'm going to the bathhouse. Shema minei tlas. What's going on over here is that we learn 3 halachas from Reb Chia. Shema mina aval aser b'nilas a sandal. First of all, he has to take off his shoes. That means that someone in the morning has to take off his shoes. We also see that it only goes for one day. Why? Because he's already asking for a new change of clothes. And we also see that it doesn't even need to be a whole day. It needs to be just a partial day. So our problem is that first you tell me that when the son of Rav Achia passed away, he sat Shiva Shloshim, and then you say that Reb Chia sits an hour, a mikzas hayom for his brother and sister, possibly his father, according to the other pshat, father and mother, according to the other pshat. The Gemara answers a very simple teretz: Reb Chia l'chud, Reb Achia l'chud. It's different people. It's not. It sounded close, but it's spelled differently, so it's a different person. Reb Achia is not Reb Chia. Okay. Rabbi Yesi Baravin says, Shama Shmua Kreva Beregel, Lamaitzi Regel Nasis Rechaika. Very interesting scenario. It's on the 29th day. Or the 30th day. It's the 30th day. He hears about it, that someone passed away 30 days ago. So it's still within the 30. So the problem is that it's a holiday that he hears about it. So he can't sit Shiva now. So that evening is when he's going to sit Shiva, but then it's already 31. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yesi Baravin says, that conclusion of the holiday counts as part of the days before, and he only sits for one day. Because it doesn't go after when he hears it, it goes after when he actually sits Shiva. There's no Shiva after 30 days. Tani Rav Adadim in Kisri Kamed Rav Yechanan. Someone teaches in front of Rav Yechanan, Shama Shmua Kreva b'Shabbos. The same halacha. He hears the Shmua Kreva on Shabbos, however, L'maitzi Shabbos Nasis Rechaika. It was the 30th day. Mighty Shabbos, the same story, just instead of a holiday, it's on Shabbos. So it's exactly the same story. Goes after the actual sitting Shiva, not when he hears it. In such a scenario, there's 2 ways of learning this Gemara. One way of learning this Gemara is by every Shmua Rechaika. If he hears about it after 30 days, does he tear his clothing? We didn't mention. We just say that he takes off his shoes. We know that he sits on the floor.
This is the 1 day Shiva, quote unquote.
Yeah, the comparable to Shavuos. Now, in that scenario, does he tear? Does he tear the clothing? Does he tear his shirt, his jacket, whatever? Or there's another way of learning this Gemara, that we always know that a Shmua Kreva never tears the clothing. The shaila is a shmua rechaika rather. The shaila is a shmua rechaika that comes on the 30th day that he really knew about it before, and then he only starts after. Does he then tear the clothing? 2 ways in the Tosfos. So yeah. Okay. Whatever the case is, there's a shaila. Rav Mani Amar Eina Kareya, Rab Chanina Amar Kareya. This is the Rab Chanina from Rab Chanina Bar Chama. So it's a machlekes. Rav Mani says that he doesn't tear. If you want to remember, Mani means also clothing. So Rav Mani says that you don't tear, and Rab Chanina says that he does tear. Problem is that could go both ways. Amalei Rav Mani le Rab Chanina. Rav Mani says, according to me, I say that you don't tear the clothing. It fits. That's why you don't sit also shiva. You don't tear. There's no shiva. It's just one day. According to you, that you tear the clothing, is there such a thing as tearing with clothing without any shiva? Reb Chanina responds, "V'loi, what's the shaila? That's not a problem." But Tanya isi avua de Reb Zera, Marmile achve de Reb Zera kamei de Reb Zera. It can't be that this is really that they actually use those names, but that's how the Gemara quotes it. It's Vahatani. It can't be Vahatanya either, because they're not. Reb Zera is not a Tana.
It's just funny. I don't see anyone ripping clothes these days anymore.
No, they do at the funeral. Yeah.
Oh, I guess I
Yeah.
haven't gone to enough funerals, probably.
Yeah.
You've got enough. It's okay.
Yeah.
So
You mean you just see the black ribbons?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
Most of them, I mean, they give a little.
they give a
ribbon
tear.
And then the person tears.
Oh,
What happens is, I'm not sure where that comes from. That someone does the knife, someone cuts a little bit with the knife, and then the person does the tear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that those nuances where that comes from.
Because I think the person's supposed to do the ribbon, maybe they don't have the courage to do it.
To do the, why can't he do the knife? I don't know. I mean, I don't. I never looked into
Because
it,
I
but
think they're supposed to do the knife on themselves.
oh, okay.
When I had my brother was not far, I went out and bought a shirt to tear.
Uh-huh. Right.
yeah.
Do people still do that when they come to
I did. I did the first time.
30 years ago, I was going to sell special Kriya shirts. It's called that. It was a great idea.
Yeah.
But you cut on the other side.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's the other side.
Uh-huh.
The whole diagram. If you want the shirt.
It's like a zipper. You're gonna have a shirt that has like a zipper or something.
No, and little marks and it was pre-sewed so you could make the tear. White
Oh, wow.
shirts.
Wow.
Oh, I had this whole chachma.
$100 shirts to rip.
Of course, never did it. You had to stand there to do it.
Uh-huh. The problem is it's only the first time you go. It's only for that one.
I thought within 30.
It could be within 30 days also.
But we were looking to make.
Okay.
How long have you more time?
I don't know. What does it say over there? Does it say in the passage? Well, she wasn't buried yet. The Avelas really only starts after the burial. Yeah. Shalos after the burial. How long did he mourn? That would be the shaila. Okay, so Mishain lechalak lekraya. You hear what's going on? If someone has a borrowed shirt, and then it turns out that he's in that Mishain lechalak lekraya. When it's damanlai b'teich shiva. When it's damanlai b'teich shiva. He finds that he's in a state of mourning. So kriya lacha shiva. He has to do the kriya after the shiva with his own shirt. I'm sorry. When it's damanlai b'teich shiva, then if it's no, it's damanlai b'teich. So b'teich shiva is kriya. If it's during the 7 days with someone else, he doesn't, and he gets his own shirt. That's what it means. He doesn't have a shirt. Because what's he wearing? He's wearing a borrowed shirt. So then he gets his own shirt, b'teich shiva. So then he's kareya. Then he tears it. La'achar shiva. If it's after shiva, then he gets the shirt. So eina kareya. Then he doesn't tear. So what are we seeing over here? That you can have shiva without tearing, without kriya. And what did Reb Chanina hold? Reb Chanina held that you do tear and you don't have shiva. So that means it could go both ways. It means you could have the tearing No, that means you can't tear without. Over here, you don't have tearing without shiva.
It's a comment here in the English quoting the Ritual.
Okay.
It says, discusses why the law that we rend our clothing for Nasi and the Torah sage who dies does not contradict this rule. Why the law that we rend it? In other words, we don't sit shiva, but we still rend. We still read for Nasi and
Oh, okay. So you're saying that there is such a thing as kriya even without shiva. Yeah. So here we were saying that there's kriya without shiva. Is there no such thing? The Brisa says that you have shiva without kriya. Okay. Ani Rab Zera Basrei, Bamedvar Mamor B'chamisha Mesi Mitzvah. Aval Alav Ve'imai Kriya V'Hailech. Yeah, it's the Shaila is that from the end of it. The Shaila is from the end. Because Rab Zera then said that when did we say that you don't do kriya after the shiva? That's only for the 5 relatives. But for a parent, mother and father, you continue to do kriya even without shiva. That's the Gemara's question. So the Gemara says, Kitani that wasn't a real type of kriya. That was just to be respectful. There's a type of kriya that's a din in avelis of mourning, and then there's just out of respect. Yeah, just to demonstrate that. Okay. Taner Rabbanan, starting in a Brisa Kalamer b'Parshas Kayanim. Anything that any of the relatives that are mentioned by the Parsha of Kayanim, that a Kayan should not become Tamish, a Kayan Metamelem, that a Kayan does become Tamitam because they're a close relative. So then those types of relatives, Aval Mesabel Alayim, those are the ones that a mourner also mourns for. So it's father, mother, sister, brother, son, daughter, wife, right? Ve'elohein, Ishtai starts with the wife, Aviv, Imai, father, mother, Achiv, his brother, Achaisa, his sister, Benayubita, his son and daughter. Hisifu Alayim. After those 7, they added on a few more relatives. Achiv va'achaisai habesula me'imai. First of all, they added in if it's only a half brother and a half sister. And they also added in achaisai nesua bein me'av bein me'imai. The sister, even if she's married. See, in the Torah it says achaisai habesula. But they added on rabbinically the sister that's married as well. Okay.
it's where Madonna comes.
Where did you see that in here?
Oh, maternal virgin. I misread it.
Okay.
I have my glasses.
Ukashem shemes Ukashem shemesabel aleihem kach mesabel al shniyim shalehem divrei Rabbi Akiva. The same way that there's mourning for these people, for these relatives, there's also mourning for their relatives. Shniyim shalehem. If a close relative is mourning for his close relative, so it's like a shared, not a shared relative, but it's if he's mourning, so then this also person also mourns with him. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. Okay, Reb Shimon ben Elazar, Reb Shimon ben Elazar is a student of Reb Meir. He says, "Eina mesabel al benai al ben benai al avi aviv." Not the other relatives. Like a person mourns for his wife. So if his wife is mourning for someone, this would be an easy example, because the wife has her own set of relatives. So if she's mourning, so according to Rabbi Akiva, he has to mourn together with her. According to Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, no. It's only if a parent is mourning, so then he mourns together with the parent. Chum say anyone that's mourning that this person would mourn for. So if that person is mourning, they mourn together with him. Gemara asks, Chachamim Hainu Tanakama, that's the same as the first opinion. Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting. That's interesting. The Gemara now says it could be nayo imay babayas. the Chachamim didn't say that they actually practices mourning. He just says practices mourning with him or with her. That just means that when he demonstrates mourning when they're together, but he doesn't have to do that on his own. The Rabbi Akiva's view was that no, there's actually a din that he has to mourn. Kiyod Amar le Rav Lechia Berei. Rav tells his son Chia. He named the son after his uncle. V'chein Amar le Rav Huna le Rabba Berei. And Rav Huna tells to Rabba his son, Be'apa, in front of her, Nahai Gavelusa, you should behave as an avel. Beloyapa, when you're not in front of her, Laitina Gavelusa, then you don't behave like an avel. Mar Ukva Shachavle Bar Chamua. Mar Ukva was the judge that we learned about. Is a friend of Shmuel. But anyway, his mother-in-law's son dies. That's his brother-in-law. Savala Mesavala Shivu Shleishim. He wants to sit Shiva in Shleishim for his brother-in-law. Al Rav Huna Legabe. Rav Huna goes to visit. Ashkeche, he finds him Mamalei to deny Sabais Lemechal. You also want to eat the meal that they prepare for a mourner. Layamr Lekvaidishtai. When is a person supposed to mourn together with his wife? That's only for her parents, but not for the 5 other relatives. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. If a father-in-law or mother-in-law pass away, he can't force his wife to put on makeup. She's in the middle of mourning. But he's actually supposed to turn over the bed and behave as an avel, as if together with her. And the same as if her mother-in-law and father-in-law passed away. That means his parents. She should not put on her makeup. She turns over her bed and also behaves as an avel. Okay, so for a parent. Tanya Yidach, we have another brisa. It says, even though a person can't force his wife to put on makeup, the eye makeup and whatever face, but they still said that but she still behaves like a wife. She prepares his drinks and she makes the bed, prepares the bed, and she prepares the water for him to bathe, which those are things that are forbidden for a nida to do for a husband. And an avel is also forbidden to have relations, the same thing. But there's a leniency here regarding, was more lenient regarding avelas in the harchakas and in the nida laws than there would be if she would be a nida. Even though both of them can't have relations, but there's leniencies in the laws of avelas. It's not, in other words, the mourning is not automatically nida laws. There's leniencies. Okay, whatever the case is, turns out that she doesn't turn over the bed. It says matzas lemita. She makes the bed. Yeah, what's going on over here? Kashana dadi, it's a contradiction. Elalav shmamina kam b'chama v'chamaisa kam b'shar krevim shmamina. Okay. Difference is, if it's a parent, and that's what Rav Huna was proving, that for a parent, you have to behave avelis together with his wife, but not if it's another relative. And that answers the contradiction between those brises. Tanya Nami Hachi was also taught, in a brisa, when it says that he behaves avelis together with his wife, that's only alachama b'chameisa bilvad, that's only for her parents. Ameimar, it's the end of the Amorai period, friend of Ravashi. Shachavle Barbarei, his grandson passed away. Kare Lavei, he tore his clothing. Also Bray, the son comes into the room. Karabape, he tore in front of his son. That's one shot. Idkar, the Miyushiv Kara, he realizes, he remembered that he tore while he was sitting. He's supposed to tear standing up. Come Kara moment, he tore again, standing up. This is the guy that is going to make a lot of money off the shirts. They give him a new shirt every time. No, it would just mean that he tears another tefa. the shears, the tefillin, he tore it again. Tore it 3 times. According to the other pshat, what really happened over here is that he tore once. Then the son came in and tore in front of him because he wanted to remind his father that you're not supposed to tear sitting down. So he tears in front of the father. The father then realized that the son tore standing up. So he gets up to tear. So he only tore twice, according to them. Amalei Ravashi la Meimar. Rashi says, Tamema kriya de mu'min minalan. Where do you know that you have to tear, that the person has to tear standing up? Eev lost his sons and daughters. They passed away. And Eev got up and he tore his garment. Elamayata, if you're going to take that literal, he got up and tore. When the person is doing chalitza, he says he doesn't want to take his brother's wife to marry her. So he says, I don't want her. So it says over there, Va'amad. Hachinami, do you have to say that standing up? But we have a brisa that says that he doesn't have to make that statement standing up. He can say, Bein Yoshe, Bein Moed, Bein Oimed, Bein Mutter. Whether he's sitting down, whether he's laying down, whether he's standing. He can say, Lechavatzi. Amalei Hasam Leksiv Vayamait. It doesn't say, and he got up. That would have been a much more statement. Vayoymar, and he said, Hachiksiv Vayakam Vayikra. Here it says that he actually got up. It was like a whole activity. Over there, it was just, it's more like he arose to the occasion or something, not like arose that he got up, stood up. Amar Rami Bar Chama. Minayin Lekriya Shum Umid. Rami Bar Chama says, a friend of Rava, where do we know that the kriya has to be done standing up? Eev got up and tore. The Gemara says, 1 second. Dilma Milsi Yaseru David. How do you know that that's a proof? Maybe Eev was doing more than necessary. If you don't say that it's possible that people were doing more than necessary, and you can't learn halacha from that, but Yogazis Reishai, Eev also says that he pulled out his hair. Hachinami, you want to tell me that the person has to pull out his hair? Elav mehacha. It's from a different source. It says Vayakam Melech V'Yikras Begadav. It's when David HaMelech tears. He gets up. He tears his clothes because this is when Amnon was killed by Avshalom, I think. It says V'Dilma Milsi Yaser to Ovid. How do you know that David did this because that's the halacha? Maybe it was extra that he got up and he tore. It says also that he slept on the ground. Hachinami, you want to tell me that you have to sleep on the ground? Person has to sleep on the ground. Va'atani yashav al gabi mita al gabi kisi al gabi udnei la yatsi yedei chavase. He actually isn't even yaitze. He's supposed to turn over the bed, and if he sleeps on the ground, it doesn't work. He has to actually turn over the bed. And David HaMelech slept on the ground. So obviously David was doing things that weren't the direct halacha. So you can't learn from there that you have to stand up to do the kriya, because David was doing other things. And Rabbi Yochanan says that he doesn't fulfill the obligation if he doesn't sleep on a turned over bed. What really happened by David was he was sleeping on a turned over bed, but that's called for David HaMelech sleeping on the ground. For a king, he lowered down the bed. Okay. Tana Rabbana was taught in a brisa. The following are things that an aval is forbidden to do. Asr b'malacha, can't do work. Berechitza, can't bathe. Sicha, can't put on ointments. Tashma shamite, can't have marital relations. B'nilas a sandal, can't wear shoes. Ba'asalikas b'teira b'neviyim m'ksuvim b'lishnis b'mishnah medrash b'alachas b'ashas b'agadas. Can't learn Tanakh, can't learn Mishnah, Medrash, Halacha, Shas. I guess it means Mishnayos and Agadas. Yeah, it sort of said everything, right? Vim hayarabim tzrichim layanimna. But if the people need him, then he doesn't have to refrain. He's allowed to teach. There's a story. Rabbi Yossi's son in Tzipari passed away. Well, it's probably not Rabbi Shmuel, but Rabbi Yossi. Another child of Rabbi Yossi. Do we know other children there? We know there was a Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi Yossi. I'm not sure. He goes to the base medrash and he teaches the whole day. He's in during the shiva. Rabba bar Chana. Rabba bar Chana Israeli Milsa. He had a also someone passed away. He thought maybe he's not going to go to give the drasha. Amalei Rab Chanina tells him, if the people need you, can't refrain, you have to go. So he goes and he decides he's going to have a translator, the person that's going to announce all his things, the old-fashioned microphone. Amalei Rav, so Rav says, Tanya, there's a brisa, but you can't have this translator, you can't have this person announcing it. So what should he do? Tanya should do like it says in the brisa. Rabbi the bar Bilai lost his son. The base of medrash. He goes to the base of medrash. Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya. Chananya ben Akavya enters for Yoshav B'tzidai, and he sits on the side. The lachashul Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya. Rabbi the bar Bilai whispered to Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya. Chananya ben Akavya letorgaman of letorgaman shmil Rabbi. He wasn't supposed to speak directly to the announcer. He spoke to someone, and the person told the announcer what to say. Tana Rabbanan. In a brayso, an avel, first 3 days of the morning, that's the worst. That's when he doesn't wear tefillin. The third day, from 3 days and on, including the third day, he can't put on tefillin. However, he doesn't have to take it off if someone comes. He doesn't have to hide it. He doesn't have to. If a new person shows up, Panam Chadash is usually said by Sheva Brachas. But here, Panam Chadashis applies also to morning, because what's the problem? According to Rabbeinu Gershon, the problem is that he's going to think that he wore tefillin the first 2 days as well. That's what Rabbi Eliezer holds.
Sounds like
When someone was going to walk out. Rabbi Shua Aimer. That's interesting. Rabbi Shua says the first 2 days he doesn't wear tefillin. However, really what he means to say is 1 day. 1 day he doesn't wear tefillin, but from the second day and on, he does put on tefillin. However, he holds that if someone else comes, he has to take it off. He has to take it off. Now, Amar Rav Masna, my time with the Rabbi Lezer. We're going to have a question on this in a second. But Rav Masna says, what's the reason for Rabbi Lezer? The days of the crying of the mourning for Moshe were completed. And it says days, that means 2. Rabbi Eliezer says that there's 2 days that a person doesn't wear tefillin. Amar Ravena, my time with the Rabbi Yeshua. Ravena said, what's the reason for Rabbi Yeshua that says there's 1 day that he doesn't wear tefillin? That its end is a bitter day. 1 day. It doesn't say Yemei, it says Yom. It says only 1 day that he doesn't wear tefillin. Rabbi Shua Nami Yaksiva Yitama Yemei v'Gaimer. What does Rabbi Shua do with the pasuk that says 2 days? Amalach Shani Moshe the Takav Avela. By Moshe it was different. A regular Avela says 1 day of not wearing tefillin. Rabbi Lezanami Yaksiva Achrisa Ki Yaimar. That its end is a bitter day. So Ikar Merira Chad Yaimo. He just says that it's not, the 1 day is worse. That first day is bitter, but Avelas of not wearing tefillin lasts for 2 days. Amar Ula halachik Rabbi Lezer b'chalitza v'halachik Rabbi Shua b'anacha. Ula says, we paskin like Rabbi Lezer that if a new person comes, you don't have to remove the tefillin. But we paskin like Rabbi Yeshua that you put it on the second day already. You put it on the second day, and you don't have to remove it. See, Rabbi Eliezer only said that on the third day, you don't have to remove it if someone new comes. But he didn't talk about the second day because you weren't putting it on anyway. So when Ula says halach like Rabbi Eliezer, that means from the third day and on, you don't have to remove it. When he paskins like Rabbi Shua, he says you put it on the second day. But he missed one point here. What about if someone new comes on the second day? do you have to remove it? That's a missing detail that didn't get paskin. So Tashema, come on, listen. You keep removing. If a new person comes, you take it off, you put it on. A new person, take it off, put it on every time someone comes. Tani nami hachi. We also have a brisa. Yudah ben Tema Imer. Wow, Yudah ben Tema. It says cheletz maniach afilu mea pamim.
Kind of stuck on this idea that comes.
Yeah.
You remove this davar kedusha, which helps you connect with it.
Right. Yeah. There must be other pshatim here for why, but at least the pshat that the rabbinic. What do you have in the Ksaviyad Rashi? Does he say why panim chadash is?
Didn't see it.
I don't have the Rashis from Ksaviyad, so I don't. It's only in the Ois V'Hada Gemaras and in the Art Scroll Gemaras. I listened to his lecture that Eliezer brought. He talks about the Rashi when they found it in 1961. They found it. What you have, that Rashi is a new.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't get to that.
Rava says kivan shiniach shuvei necheletz. Rava says no. Puts on the tefillin. He doesn't have to take it off for anyone. For Rava udamar the halacha ketana didan damar shleisha. Rava said that Avelis is really 3 days. And how did he say that? He said that if a person didn't sit for 3 days before Yom Tov comes, so the Yom Tov doesn't even break it, because really Avelis, it's not 3 days. It has to be mamash 3 days. And now he's telling me that already on the second day you put on tefillin and you don't remove it. He says Avelis needs to be 3 days. My answer is mitzvah shiny. If it's a mitzvah, it's different. Okay, we'll leave it over there. Other stuff. Okay. We turn the page. Almost caught up. Yeah.